South Florida Intervention, and I'm here with my good friend, Sam Davis, who's with a Broad Highway Intervention in Richmond, Virginia. I'm down in South Florida, obviously, hence the name. And this is kind of an interesting thing because if not for Sam, I wouldn't be an interventionist. I think 6 years ago, we just decided it was about 6 years ago, I helped a friend do an intervention, and I called John Southworth, and John said, use this guy, use Sam Davis, and you came up and to Washington, D.C., and you ran the intervention, and we got the guy into treatment, and I was inspired. I mean, so you are my mentor in many ways, and you are that much further down the road than I am. So I watch what you're doing. I'm learning from what you're doing, and so this is really, this is coming full circle. So.
Yeah, man, just mentioned John Southworth. He inspired so many people. I was trained by him. I was actually intervened on by him. I walked into a probation office one time and, I was telling him how great I was doing. And she said, come on back. And there was John Southworth with my family. And I remember peering through some glazed eyelids, when we were on the plane headed to treatment. And he was very straightforward with me. He was very straightforward with the family. He said he died of a cocaine addiction. But he was a kind soul, and rest in peace, to him. And but he inspired a lot of people. He certainly inspired me. So yeah, I was trained by him and his staff, and he was always helpful, always willing to answer the phone. And he was a busy guy. Yeah. But he was always willing to answer the phone and be of help to me. And I miss him a lot,
Yeah. No, so I did a bunch of training with him too. And I didn't know him as well as you did, but I really, it was easy to see the spirit of the guy and, how well, he was respected and liked. And anytime you mention his name today, anywhere in the country, people automatically go right to, speaking so positively about him. And he used to have that meeting in the morning. He would have that, I guess, what do you call it? The traveling meeting, that 7 a.m. AA meeting. Yeah. And, wherever he was, that's where the meeting was. And that was great. And I really enjoyed that. Yeah. So.
He always kept his 12-step close. He always kept it close to him and took it wherever he was. And he was very connected. And, he's always given great advice. And, and another thing too is what you and I have to look at. I mean, I think we're around the same age, is that you never retire from this thing. You look at him, he's in his 80s, I think, still traveling the country every day, doing interventions, and loved it every second. He loved every one of them that he did.
Yeah. So I think there's something with interventionists, and I know for myself that I have a craving for motion. I'm, that idea of stopping or, I'm just so fulfilled by working with families, being on planes, going new places. A few months ago, I dropped someone off in treatment in Tennessee, and then I went to look at another treatment center. I went to look at Red Oak, and I'm walking around with the guys at Red Oak, and it just occurred to me, how lucky am I that this is what I get paid for? That I get, I get to affect people's lives, right? Which really just affects my life, makes my life better. And then the next day I'm able to, go to a treatment center and spend 2 or 3 hours with these guys. And just, it's just a different level, and how fortunate I am to be able to do that. And it's been great. Yeah. So.
Yeah. When I'm on the highway and I see the commuters going back and forth to their job, to their cubicle every day, and to their, the same old grind, I feel so lucky. And, my sister, I'm in recovery. I'm a recovered addicted individual and an alcoholic. And my sister had gone to school. She's a great therapist. She's an LPC, and she is a top-notch therapist. And she went to school for many years. And she's like, Sam, it's really not fair. You went out and did a bunch of cocaine. You got well and got trained, and here you are doing what you love. She said, I had to go to school for it for, 15 years, but we are very blessed to be able to do what we do. Yeah. Are very, very, very blessed.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
It's like it's not work.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but my addictions were a full-time job, doctor shopping all the time. And, you know, so I feel like we have paid our way. We have, you know, we got here the hard way. So.
We sure did, man. We took some licks. You know, to get here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, and you know, the interesting thing about that is I'm always looking back at my story. I've been sober now, coming up, God willing, on 16 years. I went to treatment when my daughter was right after her second birthday, and you know, she's going to be 18 now, and we're getting ready to send her to college. But I'm still understanding my own story. I still look back at it, and I'm seeing what I didn't see before. And you know, it's a never-ending journey. So it's a lifetime. It's a whole lifetime of change and work and commitment. And I'm grateful for that. If it was something, if you could go to treatment for 30 or 60 or 90 days and get a certificate and graduate, I would have been dead a long time ago. So I'm glad we don't graduate from this thing.
Yeah, no, we don't. And you know what I've found too through the years is, look, I mean, I still have the, you know, I'm a human, right? We're both human, and we have still experiences and growing experiences, even, you know, and we'll continue to. And I have found that some of my most challenging moments in sobriety up to, you know, even a couple of months ago have been of some help to families that I'm working with currently. Those, you know, relationships, personal relationships, struggles with personal relationships, intimate relationships, and the feelings that we have around it. Because listen, man, you scratch the. I think all of us have to be a little codependent to be in this field that we're in. I mean, I really do believe that. And that just doesn't stop in my field. It's in my personal life as well. So that's always a growing opportunity and challenge in my personal life. And every experience that I have, I found to be of help immediately to other families that I'm working with at that time, you know? And so when we do our own work and we've recovered from our addictions, nothing that we've done has been in vain. Nothing. None of the behaviors that we did, none of the actions that we took have been in vain, because we've been able to channel that right into helping another family and helping another individual. You know, and that makes us relatable.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. You know, and it's funny that you talk about codependency, because I feel like for me, when I was in treatment, my wife did the family program, and we had that day where we called it the fishbowl, the face-to-face. They put you face-to-face with your loved one, and they talk about how your addictions and it went really badly. And I wound up storming out, and then I got thrown out. And later that day, the therapist came and got both of us. And he observed us for a few minutes. You know, it was amazing, because her and I had been talking to therapists and rabbis and whatever our whole, you know, for the whole time we were married, and nobody. And here this guy, you know, who had walked the path, because his story, I heard his story, and his story was my story. And he looked at us, and he knew exactly what was going on. And he said to me, he said, "You may need Al-Anon as much as you need AA," because he said, "Man, you are so hookable. You just think everything is your fault." And you know, and I really do, you know, I really have adopted Al-Anon and family recovery into my program. And I think it's a lot of what the work I do with families leading up to an intervention. In fact, one of the things I do is I bring the family members, at least the core family members, depending how big the intervention party is, to an Al-Anon meeting the night before. Or we do it online. But I want them to see what it is. I want them to know that it's available, and take advantage of it. With that said, for me, it's harder to get a family member to an Al-Anon meeting than it is to get an alcoholic to an AA meeting. I don't know why. So
definitely. And you know what? As I hear you say that, you know, it took me years before I started looking at Al-Anon, you know, after I'd sobered up of looking at Al-Anon. I always knew that this had this little piece in me. And look, you know, I'm doing, you know, continue to do some EMDR therapy as stuff comes up, and continue to do my own work. But I myself have been resistant to Al-Anon at times. I mean, I really have, if I'm being completely transparent. But yet with these families that I work with, you know, we push Al-Anon and doing their own work. I mean, because it has to start with the family. The change has to start with the family. You know that.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
You know, so I get it when they're resistant to it. I get it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, thank God for it. Thank God for those fellowships.
Yeah.
You know, they're lifesavers.
They are.
You know,
They
and
are
just as I had
lifesavers.
said that, yeah, and just as I had said, you know, that every horrible experience that I went through my addiction, I tell families that, you know, every experience you went through with your loved one and trying to manage your loved one and control your loved one and fix your loved one, that if you can get into a fellowship around Al-Anon or Families Anonymous or whatever the fellowship is,
Yeah.
then, and channel that and to work with help another struggling family, that nothing that you have done will have been in vain. It's
Right.
channeling it right through, you know?
Right.
So,
Right. No, absolutely. And so what are you seeing now, like in terms, you know, we're talking about Al-Anon and AA and going to meetings, which is actually one of my favorite things to do. And I think that I was really fortunate when I came out of treatment. I had no intention of doing anything they told me to do. And I was only in treatment for 30 days. And they may have given me an aftercare plan. They may have discussed it with me, but it went right over my head. And I tell this story a lot. I was back home 3-4 days with no contact with another sober alcoholic, no meeting. You know, I'd been in the treatment bubble where you're safe in the treatment bubble. You know, you're really not going to drink or use. I know there are some stories, but you're not going to drink or you're not going to use in treatment. You get out of treatment and then you like hold on to your ass because, you know, everything's in front of you. And I sat in my little office at home, my little den. And I remember one day I just cold sweat pouring down my head. I was cold sweat, and I didn't know if I was going to kill someone else or kill myself. And out of nowhere, I heard this voice, and it said, "Go to one of those meetings." And they had the treatment center printed out. This was 2004, so I guess it was all online at that point. That printed out a list of meetings based on our area code, our zip code. And I recognized one of the addresses, and I went there, and it was a Connecticut Avenue above the record store. It's no longer a record store, but it was then. And what I discovered in that hour that I was there was it allowed me, it afforded me some relief, not just from the outside world or what I was feeling, but from myself. I was even able to get even off my own back, you know, take a reprieve. And I really took to the meetings. I really enjoyed the meetings. I really identified it was a safe place for me. So meetings right away for me, somewhat not by design, became, you know, like the bread and butter of my program. It's just, you know, meetings at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. And that saved my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I went to treatment multiple times, and every time before the last time, they would suggest aftercare, and they would really leave it up to me, though, you know, and then I would relay it to my family. My family would say, well, you know, what are they suggesting? I'm like, you know, I got this. They're just saying, you know, maybe see a therapist or go to some meetings. And then they give me a marble and, you know, a little big book and tell me to hit 90 and 90. And I never did it.
Right.
And I didn't do well when I got out every single time. But the last time, I mean, I had been immersed into the 12-step process through the treatment center that I was in. And you're right. I mean, I got out of treatment and I was on my own. I mean, I had every time before that, I had support. I had enabling, not support, I had enabling, and I was able to call the shots and run the show. And this last time I had nothing, you know, so the only option I had was to go to sober living. With the money that I had, that was the only thing that I could do. So I did it. And the only people that I knew or had known that last year were in recovery. So I just went where they were. And, you know, thank God for it. You know, I had no other option. I could have been homeless, you know, I could have gone out and been homeless, but I didn't want to do that, you know. And some people, you know, a lot of people don't mind being homeless until they're homeless. I just didn't want to be homeless, right? So, you know, but that was the life saving for me, life saving. And it still continues to change my life and save my life. You know, currently with the way things are with COVID, there's not a lot of in-person meetings going on, and that's a shame. That's a shame, I believe. But still can help another addicted individual. I have some people come over here and we meet face to face and do some big book stuff. And it's, still learn something new out of their book every time I crack it,
I mean, this is unprecedented to think we would come to a time when, there are no meetings. I mean, meetings are never canceled no matter what, I mean, maybe if we had a major snowstorm or something like that, we'd have to cancel the meeting, but that'd be one. But to see this is unprecedented. And the online meetings are good, but they're difficult. It's not the same thing as sitting in a room, something about sitting in that church basement and just having the people around you and taking in the spirituality, for me, is very effective. And with the Zoom meetings, it's good, but I kind of feel disconnected. And but I had a conversation with a family this morning, and I said, there's never been a better time to be in treatment, because if you've got a kid that needs treatment, they're not in school right now. They're doing it online. They're where you're working from home, or they're so much better off in treatment, so much safer in treatment than they are hanging out in the street. And so in one respect, I think that's good. But the idea that somebody's going to walk into a meeting and sit down in the back of the meeting and detox and get sober and do it the way a lot of our ancestors did it, it's just not happening right now. And I think that's really hard.
No, and I think that's, the increase in call volume that we're getting is a result of that, I think, of the lack of of the available meetings. I believe that. The first couple of months when COVID kicked off, our calls were pretty much non-existent. Everybody was in fear. Nobody knew what to do, right? I mean, that's, it's never been done before. So people were afraid to meet, and I understand that. I get that. I was a little hesitant myself. And, but as this thing is going down the road, I mean, our call volume is increasing. What are you seeing? What are you seeing on your end down there in South Florida around this deal?
Well, I am, we have no meetings here. I think, the reports of increased mental illness and relapse are there. Florida can be a little bit of a dangerous place anyway, because there's a lot of, you can have anything you want down here. It's a little bit more dangerous than up north. But yeah, I mean, my business is a little bit younger than yours, so I'm not seeing quite the volume you're seeing, but I am starting to see it. It is sneaking up. So.
Right. Yeah. The stories that we're getting on the phones now are becoming common. Is that we're working from home, we're able to see our son or our daughter more, and we're seeing more of what's going on because we're around more and it's becoming obvious, or whether it be the spouse. That's the common thread that we're seeing is we're working from home now, we're around each other more, or they've been laid off from their job, or they're working from home, whatever be the case around that. It's more, everyone's together more as far as a family, and they're seeing what's there. Yeah. And that's been the common theme.
And I guess for somebody who was, having drinking problems, right? But they still had the obligation of getting up every day and going to work and, showering and showing up. That at least gave them some accountability. But now that they're working from home, all that accountability, that having to see other people, is gone. And that just opens the floodgates for increased use.
Yeah. And with people like us, is that, when the family is in shambles, the girlfriend relationship, boyfriend relationship's in shambles, relationship with the kids are in shambles, with the friends, and everything's kind of falling off.
Yeah.
It's typically the job is the last thing. That's the last place where we feel like that we are something. It's the last place where we can keep up the guard or the facade that we're okay. Yeah. And then when they put you working at home, just like you were saying, You know, it's Katie bar the door then, you know?
Yeah, right. It's full tilt. But, I also see people that, a lot of professionals that they actually, to the outside world, they look good. They are, this was not my story, but they are high performers. And that amazes me. Like, I'll hear meetings, people talk about how they got through medical school or law school, drinking all the time. And I'm like, I don't understand that, because on my best sober day, I wasn't getting through medical school, law school, but they show up and they look good. And I'm actually talking to a family now where this guy is very successful, and that might kill him. He's got a lot of money. He's a hard worker. Nobody wants to rock the boat, except for the fact the wife can't stand the sight of him and the kids aren't speaking with him. So, it's not as obvious, but the pain is still there. It's still broken. He still needs treatment. So.
Yeah. And, look, we're some of the most talented and gifted people on the planet. We are. I've never met a dumb alcoholic. I've never met a dumb addicted individual.
Yeah.
I never have. I've seen them do some dumb things. I've certainly seen a lot of that, but we're not dumb.
Yeah.
And we're extremely talented. And as I always say, I believe God created us to be alcoholic to keep us from taking over the world. I mean, we're that talented. And that baffles the family and keeps them in a little bit of denial when their loved one is still going to work every day and running a corporation or having employees or is getting bonuses and blowing the charts and sales or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
It keeps the family in a little denial. They're like, well, how could it be? Because their idea of an alcoholic is someone who lives under a bridge.
Right.
Their idea of the alcoholic is someone that, is sitting on the corner, begging for some change. And that's not the case.
Not the case. Really not the case for the cases we see. I mean, we do see people that are, part of a family system. I've always thought that, when my family intervened on me, I was completely broke. The car had been repoed. I'd been fired. I was 100 pounds overweight. That if my career was going well and I was making money, I may never have made it to treatment, because I know that the thinking in my family may have been, well, he's making money, so what's the problem? The bills are getting paid.
Right.
Yeah.
He's just going through a little rough spot emotionally. He'll pull out of it.
Yeah. So
for me, I'm kind of like you. It was, I went through this period because, like I said, we are talented. And there was a time in my life when addiction was really starting to take off, is that my outsides looked really good. I still had a career, I ran a business, I had, the family, the house, the vehicles, the land. I mean, everything looked good on the outside, falling apart on the inside. But in the end, it was, I was living in a single wide trailer with a hole in the floor. I couldn't pay rent on that, stolen cable, I was the worst employee I had. Yeah. Absolutely. The worst employee I had was me.
Yeah.
And, so I had to burn it all the way down.
Yeah. I like to say I caved at the threat of a 3-star hotel. That's, I was so weak, but I'm glad. However it worked out for the best. Right. I know guys that have been homeless and, and them gotten sober. I know I would not have made it as a homeless person. I just, I was not that, I didn't have that in me. So I caved pretty quick. And, by the time I realized that relapse is something that happens or sometimes part of the story, I already had like 4 or 5 months, my life was getting better. And I didn't want to go back. So.
Right. Yeah. I was in treatment with a lot of high bottom people that still had a lot of cash in the bank when they came in, and they could have walked out at any time.
Yeah.
And they could have gone and made their own way.
Yeah.
But they had a level of emotional desperation that they did not want to live emotionally the way they were any longer. And my hats were off to them all the time. I was just sat in admiration of those guys, because there were moments that if I'd have had anything in treatment, because when I, in order for us to get well, we have to get really uncomfortable.
Right.
And and you know, the little, I call it the rabbit, you know, when you jump a rabbit in the woods or in the park or wherever, and that rabbit goes like that. I mean, when I get uncomfortable, that was really my go-to, was to just run.
Right. Right.
And there were times, months into treatment, I was in treatment for a year, and months into this deal, first couple of months at least, you know, I'd get uncomfortable, and I was like, man, if I had a way out, I'd be out.
Yeah.
My addiction wanted to take me out, I would be out. So it was,
Yeah.
I always sat in admiration of those people that were in treatment that could have financially gone somewhere else and had other options.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we see ourselves in other people. That's part of the magic. You know, we see ourselves in the meetings and treatment. Sam, this has been great. This was a lot of fun. I'd love to do it again. You know, just talking to you, you know, it's like in a way we're having our own little meeting. And that is the difference between what I have found in the recovery space as a career compared to my past in commercial real estate. We really do support each other. We really do bolster each other. We want to see each other do well. And that is just, you know, so, I mean, I used to go to corporate events and I'd be like, you know, I had no desire to be there. I didn't want to be part of the conversation. But when I go to conferences now and stuff and I see you guys, I really want to be part of it. I feel like I have something to contribute and I have to learn and all those things. So this has really been great, and I'm really
it has
with you. So
thank you, Mark, for putting this thing together. We should do it again. Definitely, I've really enjoyed this. Really
absolutely. So thanks. I'm gonna hit the button here. So which I'm not sure I even know how to do, but I'll stop.
All right, bud.
Oh, okay. I don't know what I just did. I think I'll stop recording. Okay.